But I don't want to see American citizens committed to a war with Russia. I just don't think it's necessary for the future of my country. They say if we don't stop Putin now, he's just like Hitler and he's going to conquer everything. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you on this Thursday night, the 29th of May, for episode number 208, Trump Tried. We've been off for a week. Welcome back, Tanner.
Thank you.
Tanner had a vacation.
Yeah, I had a little vacation.
Gave me a vacation. You know what happened?
What did you do?
I didn't have to do any content last weekend.
Yeah?
And I remember what it was like to be a civilian. It was great. I had nothing to do. So thank you for giving me a couple of days off.
Yeah, of course.
And then I have to fire the machine back up. Wow. I want to say, starting out, we can't get this information out enough. And we're going to start to use your screen as a billboard for ideas, the most important of which is citizen participation in politics. And as we go through tonight's podcast, Trump Tried, it's going to become, I hope for you, the listener and the viewer, more and more apparent how critical it is for we, the people, for the citizens of this country to participate in politics. Now, I very much appreciate your viewership, your listenership, your participation in this community. It's great. And I do try to be entertaining. And actually, while Tanner was gone, we played some reruns, and I was a heck of a lot more entertaining at the beginning of the series. We played like two podcasts, was like number 10 and number 6 or something like that.
Number 5 and number 10, yeah.
I was a lot more entertaining, funny. I mean, to myself, I was not as sharp. My thinking was not as clear. I want to thank you for putting up with that, because part of this podcast is for me and for all of us to research these issues, to search for truth together, and to try to get our thinking together so we know where we've been, where we are, and try to get to someplace that's a little bit better than the verge of nuclear war, where we again find ourselves this day. But the participation in politics is critical. So I'm going to urge you, and if Tanner, if you could please put it up, go to roycewhite.us, scroll down, Caucus Counter-Attack, fill out that module, and you're going to get a call from me personally. I'm calling all the people that are posting up their information in here, and we got a lot of them. And for the people in the apparatus that are watching me, you better go out there and find all the remaining rhinos in Minnesota and get them activated. Because I'm going to tell you, rhinoceros is a species, well, it's on the endangered species list, because the people are waking up, and I can see that in X. I see that when people attack me. I see the response from other citizens that are watching. I see the feedback. And thank you, Tanner. I want to say to the people that I don't agree with, it's not personal. And I certainly believe in your right to pursue your own political ambitions and your own political outcomes. And I'm just going to keep saying to you, you want to support the post-World War II Democrat liberal order? Look at the fruits of this tree. Look at it. Look at our country. Look at the world. Look at the wars. Look at the debt. That is the outcome of the political process that has dominated this country my entire adult life. And I get this thing on X from people. Oh, I don't think it's going to work, David. Or I don't think Royce White is electable. Well, okay. That's not a reflection of Royce. That's a reflection of we the people. We would prefer to send white starched shirt wearing, red, white, and blue tie wearing, blue suit wearing, American flag lapel pin wearing, Harvard undergraduate, Yale Law School graduate, ex-military, married the high school sweetheart, 3 kids, beautiful, right out of central casting. And what have those people given us? A $37 trillion of debt, a horribly dysfunctional society, and we're on the verge of nuclear war. Why would we keep electing these same people? They're obviously not for real, and they are not for the people. And if you're backing these people, with all my respect, you're not real. You're in some kind of a fog, because all we have to do is look at what's going on. So go to precinctstrategy.com and learn everything you need to know to get into the game of politics. Here in Minnesota, if you hit Caucus Counter-Attack, we're going to get organized. We're going to caucuses in February of 2026, and the people, the citizens of Minnesota, are going to displace the professionals that run the Minnesota Republican Party. And there's nothing wrong with professionals if they have sacred honor. Unfortunately, this crew does not. Evidence. Our party recently hired paid media consultants to trash endorsed candidates and to trash Donald Trump. And one dude named Josh Kimber said, because I'm saying this, I'm implying that Royce White lost because of Michael Broadcorp. You know, I told the guy, go bait a fish hook. That is not what I am saying. And anybody that wants to be intellectually honest would know and would agree with me that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the party itself is led by people who are corrupt. And we are not going to attract new voters, new constituents to our cause when the leadership lies like a snake in the grass. We've got to get serious people who are seriously invested in searching for truth, who want to build a community that's inclusive of all political factions within our party, and let the people come take honest votes, not the kind of BS votes that we've been taking because, you know, the party controls what gets voted on. We're only going to make progress when we get real. And let me tell you why we need to get real. Please play number 1.
A Russian military commander has claimed that President Vladimir Putin's helicopter was caught in the epicenter of repelling a large-scale attack by a swarm of Ukrainian drones. This during his visit to the Kursk region on May 20th this year. According to a report by Russian news agency TASS, the drones were destroyed before they could reach the president's flight path, said Russia's Air Defense Unit commander. Dashkin said that an air defense battle was conducted and enemy drones were immediately neutralized by Russia's air defense forces to ensure the safety of the presidential helicopter's flight in the air. No injuries or damage were reported in the incident. Putin was in Kursk earlier this week. It was his first visit to the region since March. According to Russian media, Putin met with interim governor Alexander Kinstein during his Kursk visit. Russian troops reclaimed most of the region from Ukrainian control in March this year. In the first major foreign military advancement into Russian territory since World War II, Ukraine in August 2024 launched a cross-border incursion into Kursk Oblast. Kursk's proximity to Ukraine's Sumy region, less than 30 miles from the border, makes it a prime target for Ukrainian operations.
So President Putin, while in the air in his presidential helicopter, was attacked by Ukrainian drones. We're supposed to be working towards peace, allegedly. And, you know, you're going to say, well, what does my personal political participation in my own neighborhood have to do with this? And I'm going to tell you, our country, its political leadership is run by neocon, war hawk, paid political professionals. These people are on the payroll of the military-industrial complex. Their campaigns take in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over the course of their political careers to pursue the aims and the outcomes of the military-industrial complex. And this war in Russia, is not going to be stopped by Donald Trump alone. And there is a tremendous amount of policy inertia, which may lead Donald Trump to actually throw in with the Europeans and pursue war with the Russians, because what choice does he have? Nobody is standing with him. The membership of his own party is arrayed against him and pushing him into conflict with the Russians. Let's listen to number 2.
Well, let's move on to some breaking news we are receiving in our newsroom at this hour. The gloves are off. The West has just allowed Ukraine to strike deep. No more range limits, no more red lines. For the first time, Kiev is free to strike Russian military targets deep inside enemy territory anywhere and anytime. This is a seismic shift in the war, and it could send shockwaves all over the way to the Kremlin. Until now, Ukraine's hands were tied. Last October, President Biden gave the green light for limited strikes only on Russian military targets close to the Ukrainian border. The message was clear: strike, but do not escalate. But the rules have now changed. It seems Kiev's Western allies are down with half measures. Now Ukraine can rain fire on Russian airfields, command posts, ammo dumps, and logistics hubs far beyond and behind the front lines.
That's good. Thank you. So our Western leadership, this is being driven today primarily by the head chancellor, the president of Germany, Merz. They are empowering Ukraine to use French, German, English, American missiles, long-range missiles, deep inside of Russia. Now, what is not being reported in the American media is Moscow is being struck regularly by Ukrainian drone and missile attacks. This is going to piss people off, right? So here's Putin, and I'm not a Putin apologist, and I'm not pro-Putin. I'm just calling him like I see him. They're trying to sit down and make a deal, and they try to kill the guy. Okay, that's not going to make you in a good mood to start out. Now it's personal, right? And then his capital is being attacked regularly. No, of course, Kyiv's being attacked also. It's a war, but it's a war that is in a process of escalation. And when your Republican elected officials are pro-war, because what do they believe? Hey, it's never going to happen here in America. And if it does, you and I die and they go to some mountainside where they live, like in Dr. Strangelove, with 10 women for every 75-year-old elected representative. And these people are corrupt and perverse. They're not like you and me. They're sellouts. And I'm going to tell you, if you're watching me and you're elected, please, just tell the truth. We don't have to agree. Let's stop lying. The lying is so profound that the people don't know what's going on. And what's going on is, an escalating war with a nuclear superpower. Let's listen to a little bit of number 3. This is Sergei Lavrov, one of the top diplomat in Russia.
Regarding your question on Germany lifting restrictions on the use of long-range missiles against Russia, this statement by Mr. Friedrich Merz once again underscores the level of competence of those who have currently risen to power in Europe. Yesterday, he declared with such pathos that from now on and forever, there would be no more restrictions on strike range. Moreover, he spoke not only for himself, but also for France, Britain, and the United States. An hour later, the Vice-Chancellor of Germany stated that no such thing had been discussed or was being discussed. Representatives of the Bundeswehr said the same. And then Merz, apparently realizing what he had actually said, claimed that he was not referring to a new decision, but to some decision made by the previous administration in Berlin. This once again leads us to believe that the decision to allow Ukraine to do essentially whatever it wants at least within certain limits, regarding strikes on targets on Russian territory was made long ago. It was kept secret. The French Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jean-Noël Barrot, recently stated at a press conference with typical French pathos that France is not fighting against the Russian people or Russia, but is supporting the sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity of Ukraine and its armed forces. He is lying. France is fighting against Russia because its long-range missiles are being used by the Nazi regime in Kyiv to strike the territory of the Russian Federation, primarily targeting civilian objects. For a Frenchman who loves his homeland and believes he represents its interests, he should be guided by the long-standing motto of all freedom-loving French politicians and people in general: liberty, equality, and fraternity.
Thank you, Tanner. Lavrov has a lot of style around the Professor Penn podcast. We appreciate style, and we appreciate views from different street corners. One of the things that we have going on here in the Republican Party in the United States and in Minnesota is we only see the thing from one street corner. We forget that you can go right to Wikipedia and look up the color revolution in Ukraine in 2014 under the Obama administration, where a duly elected Ukrainian president was deposed in a color revolution because he was tilting towards the Russians. This is not, hidden information. The meddling of the West and of the United States security services in the Ukraine and in Eastern Europe is well documented, going all the way back to Operation Paperclip, bringing Nazis here into the United States, but also the positioning of ex-Nazis in the Ukraine, because the Nazis are anti-Russian. They used to call it Soviet. It's anti-Russian. So there is a long-standing tension and hatred between the Germans and Russians. Therefore, is it any wonder that Germany is stepping up to lead the charge of those that want to continue this endless war against Russia? There's so much war news. The Germans just yesterday pledged another $5.65 billion in military aid to Kyiv. There's Russian troop movements in the area. There are over 50,000 fresh troops that are massing in the Ukraine's Sumy region in the northeast. Donald Trump is expressing frustration with the Russian bombing campaigns and suggested Putin might be delaying ceasefire negotiations. Trump also criticized Zelensky. There was a prisoner exchange, which was a positive. But the underlying threat, the walk up the threat escalation ladder around these long-range missiles is truly profound. Please play number 4. With modern long-range precision systems of Western manufacture, the Ukrainian army is not capable. It cannot do this. If this decision is made, it will mean nothing less than the direct participation of NATO countries, the United States and the European countries, in the war in Ukraine. This is their direct participation. And this, of course, significantly changes the very essence, the very nature of this conflict. This will mean that NATO countries, the United States and the European countries, are fighting against Russia. And if this is so, then bearing in mind this changes the very essence of the conflict. We will make appropriate decisions based on the threats that will be created for us. I have a suggestion. I think the United States should withdraw from NATO. I believe in the America First idea. I do not believe that the United States should get involved in the third war in Europe in 100 years. I am from the Ukraine, the contested region called the Donbass. That is where my family emigrated from to come to the United States. The first language in my home was Russian when I was a little kid. Okay, I mean, I got some ties to the region. I still have relatives in the region. I don't care. I care about my neighborhood and my state. I do not believe the constant refrain shared with me by Republican Party officers that it is our duty to defend the Ukrainians. I just don't believe that. And I'm Ukrainian, so I'm very sorry. I know there's some Ukrainian people in the Republican Party of Minnesota that very much disagree with me, and they're entitled to do so. So if you're an American citizen living here in Minnesota and you have children, I have 5 military-age children. If you have children and you don't want to see them maimed or killed in foreign wars of discretion, let's elect candidates who are opposed to war, that are what I would say not opposed to war. That's not precise. Opposed to wars of discretion. There are wars of necessity. I've been in fights. I mean, I didn't start them. You know, I don't start fights. But, you know, sometimes you got to fight. And if we have to fight here in the United States, I'm still capable of doing it, and I wouldn't have any objection to doing it. But to send my children off to die in the South China Sea, or to die in Europe, or to die in the Middle East in the defense of other people's beefs? No, that is not what I want to see happen. I consider that to be our country being overly ambitious. I want borders, humility, and a return to the basic principles to love your neighbor as you wish to be loved. And I'm going to tell you, beyond just the spiritual side of it, how about the material side? Please play number 5.
On May 22, 2025, a significant military strike occurred in central Ukraine. A Russian Iskander-M tactical ballistic missile hit a Patriot air defense system position in the city of Pokrov, located in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The strike destroyed key components of the system, including its main radar, the command and control cabin, and 2 missile launchers. This wasn't just another battlefield event. It marked a direct engagement between some of the most advanced weapon systems from the East and the West. Pokrov, formerly known as Orjonikidze, lies in central Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk region. It's an industrial city situated not far from active conflict zones, making it a strategic location for deploying advanced air defense systems like the U.S.-made Patriot. The decision to station Patriot batteries here highlights Ukraine's attempt to protect vital infrastructure from high-speed missile threats. But the successful strike by an Iskander system reveals the growing challenges of defending fixed assets in modern warfare. The Iskander-M is a Russian-made short-range ballistic missile system designed for precision strikes on high-value targets. With a range of up to 500 kilometers and capable of carrying a warhead weighing around 700 kilograms, it combines speed, agility, and electronic countermeasures to evade interception. It travels at hypersonic speeds and can maneuver in the terminal phase, making it especially difficult to detect and intercept. The Iskander's main role is to neutralize strategic enemy assets before they can react: command posts, radar stations, missile launchers, and logistics hubs. The Patriot missile system developed by the United States is designed for medium to long-range air defense. Its core components include the AN/MPQ-65 multifunction radar, the AN/MSQ-104 engagement control station, and MIM-104 interceptor launchers. The latest versions, such as the PAC-3, are optimized to intercept ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and advanced aircraft. While effective under ideal conditions, its performance heavily relies on system readiness, integrated radar support, and rapid threat detection and response. According to Russian sources and independent reports from BulgarianMilitary.com, the Iskander strike was carried out after reconnaissance drones pinpointed the exact location of the Patriot battery. Once coordinates were confirmed, the missile was launched and hit its target directly. Initial assessments indicate that the radar and both launchers were either destroyed or rendered inoperable. While independent verification is still underway, satellite imagery and field reports support claims of significant damage at the site. This incident raises a critical question. How effective are modern air defense systems against high-speed ballistic threats? In theory, Patriot is capable of intercepting missiles like the Iskander. However, if its radar is taken out first, or if the system isn't fully integrated into a broader defense network, its ability to respond is severely limited. The Iskander's speed and flight profile gave it an edge in this case, making interception highly unlikely.
Thank you, Tanner. So, in addition to the spiritual imperatives, we have a mistaken belief here in the United States that our military is all-powerful in these conflicts. And from this event, we can see that it's not what we don't know that hurts us, it's what we think we know that ain't so that hurts us. And interestingly, this was in the Dnipropetrovsk region. This is now a contested region because of the continuing incursions of Ukrainian munitions into the Russian territory, the Russian Federation territory, as part of the alleged peace process. Putin is now demanding a buffer zone instead of just 4 oblasts or states, provinces that Putin is demanding are ceded to the Russian Federation. He's now adding the Chernigov, Sumy, Kharkov, and this Dnipropetrovsk regions. So that's 8 states or oblasts within Ukraine that are now on the table from the Russian perspective if there's going to be a peace or a ceasefire. Putin has ordered his army to establish this big buffer zone, which means he's not negotiating. He's taken and he's going to negotiate afterwards. And it seems fairly clear that the Russians do have the military advantage at this point in the conflict. The Russians did meet with the Ukrainians. I'm talking about teams of negotiators. They met in Istanbul last week to talk about having a ceasefire, having a peace process. Bloomberg News reported that the Russians are maintaining what Bloomberg calls a maximalist position. Here's what the Russians are asking for. They're asking for Ukraine to agree to a neutral status regarding NATO, no NATO membership, no foreign troops in Ukraine, no nuclear weapons in Ukraine, de facto recognition of Crimea and the lost Eastern Territory as now part of Russia, and withdrawal from any remaining Kiev forces from those mostly occupied territories before any ceasefire could take effect. That's maximalist. Let's look at them one by one. Ukraine agreeing to a neutral status regarding NATO. Well, that's how this whole thing got started. That's why, that and the ethnic cleansing of Russian speakers in the Donbass was Putin's reasons for invading at the start. So he's keeping that as a chip. He wants that. No foreign troops in Ukraine. Well, that seems reasonable. Why would Putin agree to have quote unquote peacekeepers on his border? That's going backwards from the Russian street corner. No nuclear weapons goes without saying. De facto recognition of Crimea and the lost Eastern territories. That's the sticking point right there. That's the biggie, because Zelensky is refusing to recognize Russian facts on the ground, that Crimea is Russian and that the Crimean people have voted. Maybe it was a good vote, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But there was a vote, and the people in Crimea voted to leave Ukraine and become part of Russia. And those 4 provinces of the Donbass, they're occupied. And Putin's not going to give them back. And I don't know how they're going to dislodge them. So as long as we stay as a world community hung up between Russia's not withdrawn and Ukraine's not giving up, this conflict's just going to continue to escalate. Europe is claiming to be prepping fresh Russian sanctions in response to what they believe is a failure of the peace process. Now, there was a prisoner exchange, and they did agree to meet again. It wasn't a total failure, but the Europeans are prepping new sanctions, allegedly in coordination with the United States. And those sanctions are going to be about the purchase of Russian oil. About half of the Russian military budget is financed by Chinese oil purchases. And if President Trump was agreeable, and the Europeans were in coordination, and it was then implemented a series of secondary sanctions on both India and China, that if they continued to buy Russian oil, there would be sanctions against those countries. That would be a lot of pressure, particularly if the Russians found that their Chinese allies and the Indians sided with the West and stopped buying Russian oil. Highly unlikely, but it is possible that President Trump will use his influence, particularly with India, to cut oil revenues for the Russian Federation. And then if at the same time President Trump demands that Zelensky withdraws from those 4 eastern provinces, hey, maybe there is something here. I mean, this is a very dynamic situation. We don't know the outcomes. You know, you got to be brave if you're a pundit and say, hey, I don't know what the outcomes are. But I am going to say, and we're going to move into another issue relative to tariffs that's going to complicate this tremendously, because clearly the ball is in President Trump's court. It's not solely in his court. He's not in control of this situation, but his influence is powerful. And he is critical of both Putin and of Zelensky, and he's getting frustrated. So I just made the case, hey, you guys don't want to have peace? Hey, we're the United States. You don't want peace? We're the United States. Hey, have at it, kids. You want to kill each other down to the last man? I'm going to get some popcorn and I'm going to watch. And I know that sounds awful, but I don't want to see American citizens committed to a war with Russia. I just don't think it's necessary for the future of my country. And I know many Republicans do. They say if we don't stop Putin now, he's just like Hitler and he's going to conquer everything. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. I'm entitled to my opinion. But the bombshell news, as I was coming to the studios today to record this podcast, was that the Court of International Trade, which is a court that adjudicates trade disputes, domiciled in New York City, has ruled that President Trump's imposition of reciprocal tariffs, remember the Liberation Day? The Court of International Trade, has ruled that the reciprocal tariffs that were levied under what's called the International Emergency It's the IEPPA, the International Economic, what is it? IEPPA, International Emergency Powers Protection Act. That's what it is. International Emergency Powers Protection Act, correct?
It's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. You were very close.
There it is. Thank you. Okay. The court has ruled that President Trump does not have the authority under that law to impose these reciprocal tariffs. Driving in, man, I was listening. People are making fun of them. It's a huge embarrassment. Our own court system has undermined President Trump's ability to pursue this tariff strategy. And he was using this tariff strategy for many reasons: to raise money, to allegedly bring back jobs, although that was, I think, a secondary idea, but also to offer countries access to our market at preferred tariff rates if they would stop killing, stop bombing, stop maiming. And the court has taken this lever away from President Trump, at least today. In addition, this puts the big, beautiful bill, the tax cuts and the spending cut bill into jeopardy, because part of that bill's scoring, its economic impact, involved the raising of revenues through these tariffs. This is, I mean, I don't want to call the Court of International Trade, a small-time court, because it's not, but it's not a big-time court. It's not the Supreme Court. It's not a circuit court. It's a lower court of federal judges. I've had many cases there, myself personally, and I'm going to spend a good time talking about it on next Tuesday's podcast, because I'm going to be relatively sure that almost all of you have never heard of the Court of International Trade. Tanner, have you ever heard of it?
I mean, I've heard its name, but I don't know anything of it.
We're going to be experts next Tuesday.
Sweet.
Okay. But this was a major development. President Trump does have other tools in the toolbox to press ahead with these tariffs, and we're going to talk about it next week. But it does reduce his leverage today in using U.S. market access as an inducement to get people to quit pulling the trigger. Same thing's going on with Iran. We got a negotiation there trying to get the Iranian regime to commit to not developing nuclear weapons. That is also, this is why we call tonight's podcast Trump Tried. He's trying to bring about peace in the Ukraine. It's not working, at least yet. He's trying to balance our budget with all kinds of mechanisms, including tariffs. And our own court system is stopping him. And there may be good legal reasons for it, but he's trying and it's not working. In Iran, he's trying to discourage, to get an agreement with the Iranians to not pursue a nuclear weapon. And there's a sticking point there. The United States is saying there's no enrichment at all, not even for civilian purposes. The Iranians are saying, hey, civilian enrichment is a national right. It's part of our sovereignty. And so they're hung up on this, and he's trying, but it's not working. And in the meantime, well, right in the middle of it, let's play number 6.
Inside Gaza, Palestinians have been granted no respite from Israeli strikes. More than 70 people have been killed since dawn on Friday. The UN says 80% of the Gaza Strip is now designated by Israel as a no military go zone. Hani Mahmoud reports from Gaza City, where Israeli forces continue to target displaced families.
Earlier this morning, the same bomb site was relentlessly bombed twice by the F-16, forcing many of the people at the vicinity of the area inside makeshift tents that they set up in the past weeks as they were forced out of their homes and their temporary shelters in the northern part of the strip toward Gaza, and the western part particularly. This has become the largest concentration of displaced Palestinians. For the past month or so, Palestinians have been on the move as evacuation orders been issued on daily basis, evacuating and forcing many of the people in the northern part of the Strip. Close to 14 neighborhoods now in the northern part of the Strip are completely empty of people. That includes areas where 3 major health facilities are rendered non-operational as they are in the line of fire of the Israeli military. These airstrikes have really caused further civilian casualties and sheer level of destruction that is quite visible everywhere. Amid all of this, Palestinians are struggling on daily basis to find food and drinking water, still queuing for hours in front of whatever left of the operational local community kitchen that are providing only tiny amount of food for a hungry population. When it comes to drinking water, it's hard to have a proper access to it with lists of the water trucks in the area and areas where displaced people are staying and taking shelters in due to the lack of fuel. Fuel has not been allowed for the past 80 days or so since the Israeli military intensified the blockade on the Gaza Strip. Also, the amount of food that has been allowed, or the aid been allowed for the past 2 days, according to international organizations, not enough, not sufficient, and does not address the deepening humanitarian crisis caused by months of Israeli devastation and bombardment across the Strip, leaving many people, particularly vulnerable groups, patients, injuries, and children at risk of losing their lives or developing complicated health conditions inside hospitals due to the acute shortage of medical supplies and other basic survival items. Hani Mahmoud, Al Jazeera from Gaza City, Palestine.
What the reporter said is so powerful. The Israeli military has blockaded the Gaza Strip with the 2 to 3 million people that are there for 80 days, not allowing food, water, medical supplies, starving the population. Let's listen to number 7, please.
As we mentioned, Israel's 11-week blockade has impacted every corner of Gaza. Food, water and medicine have been prevented from entering the Strip. The United Nations has warned that thousands of children in Gaza are at risk of death because of the Israeli blockade. Near-famine conditions haunt the entire population that's been repeatedly displaced in Gaza. Well, in the last hour, the UN has confirmed that around 90 truckloads of goods have been dispatched to Gaza. Let's speak to Gabriel Elizondo, who's at the UN headquarters in New York and is live for us. Gabe, what more do we know about these aid trucks and the process Israel has put in place to make sure the aid gets to those who need it?
Well, first, the facts as we know them from the United Nations, as you stated, they are confirming within the last hour that 90 trucks have got to their distribution points in Gaza, and some aid is starting to be distributed. Now, what aid is that? The UN, most recently in their last information we're hearing, they're saying we're not giving specifics. However, we've heard from UN officials in the last 24 to 36 hours before these trucks arrived saying that they believe it will be flour, some medicine, nutritional supplies, and some baby formula. But in terms of details on how much flour, when and where exactly it's being distributed, the UN simply is saying they do not have that info at this hour. What we can tell you is the UN is saying that no petroleum or gasoline is being allowed into Gaza by Israeli authorities. That is important because that means there's no gasoline to power generators for hospitals or even bakeries to keep ovens running and things like that. Israel continues to block that. Also, of course, it is very important to point out, while 90 trucks might seem like a big number, it's really not. And this is why, is because before October 7th, 2023, before Israel began its bombardment of the Gaza Strip, about 500 to 600 aid trucks were going into Gaza every day. Again, that's before Israel began its bombardment of the Gaza Strip. And so 90 trucks simply, in the words of UN officials, is a drop in the ocean, particularly since it's now been 11 weeks that Israel had a total and complete blockade on all aid. So this is essentially where we're at. UN officials certainly are not celebrating, but they are sort of saying a little bit of a sigh of relief because they say they will take any aid they can to get in, even to save one life. But clearly,
Thank you,
this
Tanner.
is nowhere
And
even
then just to share with you what it looks like when a starving people are given a chance to get a little bit of food. This is just heart-rendering. Could you please just play number 8? It's a short clip. This is when those 90 trucks that reporter was referencing went into the Gaza. This is what the scene, this was the scene. The Israeli troops actually had to shoot, fire warning shots because the people rioted trying to get this food. It's inconceivable. I was speaking to a Minnesotan, a citizen here, and the comment was, these people need to die. I looked at this Republican and I said, what? Nope, the opinion of this Republican, this neocon Republican, was that the solution to this long-term problem was to kill these people. They need to die. That was war. These women, these children, they need to die. So, you know, in our Republican Party, we have many members who believe that this is war, and in a war, there's a winner and a loser. All true. I'm not going to get on the other side of that one. But the human cost, the human suffering, it's not a solution. Genocide is not a solution. I explained to this voter that the Germans perpetrated a similar genocide on the Jews in World War II, and look what the Jews turned into to perpetrate this genocide here in the Gaza. So when we as human beings just function like this, it's not really a solution. It's a temporary solution. We're going to have to come to grips with the fact that our future is in our own hands, and we don't have to live like this. We have to start personally in our own lives. That's my belief. I have to start with myself. We have to have a complete transformation of human consciousness, because this is not working. It's not working. Do you see it's not working, Tanner, or is it just me off on a trip?
No, I see that it's not working.
Would you say that in your generation there's any support for what Israel is doing in the Gaza?
No. My generation is trying to help Gaza more so.
So eventually your generation becomes the power generation, correct?
Correct.
I wonder if AIPAC's going to be able to buy off your political leaders.
Yeah.
I don't know. TBD, to be determined. Israel is defiant. Israel is pursuing a continuing military operation in the Gaza. Trump knows it's a big problem. He is proposing plan after plan to resettle millions of Palestinians. His latest one was to resettle 1 million Palestinians from the war-ravaged Gaza to the war-torn Libya. Well, that's called going from the frying pan into the fire. But he's trying, at least he's coming up with some novel ideas. In the meantime, although the United States has cut a peace deal, a truce with the Houthis are still targeting Israel, and they just bombed Israel's international airport in Tel Aviv, which has a little bit of a personal note because a friend of mine called me, more than a friend, a brother actually, called me. He goes, my son is supposed to go to Israel. I go, really? He goes, United Airlines just canceled his flight. What do you think? I said, well, do you want to see your son go to a war zone? No. Then I suggest you tell your son to stay home. And he stayed home. And I think that's great. Trump's got another idea. He wants to turn Gaza into a freedom zone. He calls it the freedom zone. President Trump said this past Thursday that he wants the U.S. to take Gaza and turn it into a freedom zone, signaling that he hasn't given up on his idea for a U.S. takeover of the territory. The president made the comments during a meeting with business leaders. Okay, great. Freedom zone. We're going to make it a freedom zone. We're going to send the people to Libya. Hey, man, there's an old saying in sales. Trump is a salesman. You throw enough you-know-what against the wall, and some of it's going to stick. So he just keeps on pitching. He's looking for a solution because, he is not interested in seeing all these people killed. And Trump is trying to do some things. And, I'm at the point where I don't want to criticize President Trump too soon because, I'm saying he's trying, but I'm also saying he's failing. I'm not saying the failures are his fault. We're going to talk about why is he failing. Well, he's failing because the Europeans want this war with the Russians to go on. The globalists want it to go on for reasons we're going to talk about. Why is he failing in the Middle East? Because the Israelis want to finish this with the Palestinians, and they want to go to war with the Iranians. How do you get people to quit fighting when they want to keep fighting? There's only one way. You got to cut off the cash. And he's not there yet, and I'll tell you why he's not there. Because he has no political support for that within the Republican Party. His own party will not support him in the very same way that our legal system just undermined his tariff attempts. We are not together as a people. I'm not asking for a dictatorship, okay? I know there's different ideas, and there's a process, and he's got to keep trying because we have not reached the point yet where any of this is coherent because there's pushback. There is one strategy that we can employ as the American people to make this come out the way we want it to, which is for peace and prosperity. We get involved in politics. Because if we don't, if we leave it to the professionals, we are screwed. And why do I say that? Look at the outcomes. Where do you think a $37 trillion debt is going to take us if we can't balance this budget? Where do you think war with nuclear powers is going to take us if we can't bring about peace? I mean, you don't have to be Nostradamus to figure out where we're headed. We're going to die. And the ones that are left, the ones that survive are going to be poor, living like animals, trying to survive. This is not the life I want for my children. And to all the Republican Party officers and Republican voters that think I'm out there, are you watching the same? Are these people watching the same news I'm watching? I don't know what they're seeing. I don't know. And this is a hot dish, whatever this person is. I got these people on X. What are you seeing? What news are you watching? Hey, I'm playing Al Jazeera. That's a no-no. Maybe on CNN they're not playing this stuff. I don't watch CNN. I've had enough of security state propaganda. These are actual video images. I guess the only claim you could make is it's AI generated. Did those look AI generated to you?
Not AI generated, but you could claim that it's just staged. At first, it's always a culture thing because the expressions they make is much different than what I see in America. So at first, those gentlemen, when they're hopping out of the car in that one video, it did look kind of fake.
You mean
But
with those bleeding bodies?
once I saw that, though, then I was like, no, this is pretty. I mean, that could be fake. I don't know. It's
It
all
could have been-
scary.
it
I'm
could
in
have been-
production,
it
so I
could have-
understand.
It could have been ketchup.
Yeah.
If there was any ketchup in the Gaza Strip,
That's
I don't
fair.
think there is any.
But you don't even know if it's filmed there. But
That's correct.
That's the thing.
Yes, that's
it's
a problem.
always hard.
It is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah. I lead towards that was real, and that was very heartbreaking. I'm not trying to take away from that, but I do
It's certainly
understand.
convincing your generation that Israel is not righteous.
Yeah. I
The
don't
whole
think
point of being Jewish is to seek righteousness. Zionism is a nationalist identity. Judaism is the search for truth. And one of my best friends got mad at me about this, and I'm just sorry. If you can't get there, I know why Jewish people feel this way. If you've lost your faith in God, your default is either the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, like be a lawyer, be a doctor, or be a Zionist, or both. But if you've maintained your Jewishness, the Jewishness that goes back to the time of Christ and before, this is not cool. I mean, this violates my sense of faith so deeply to see this kind of violence. And I know there are millions of Jews, because I get anti-Semitic people sending me stuff all the time. And that's okay. I'm not mad about it. But I want to tell you, if you're anti-Semitic, there's a big difference between being Jewish and being a Zionist. You can be a Jewish Zionist, and, you know, I am not in favor of genocide or starving people because I'm not a Zionist. I'm sorry, and I know there's Jewish people watching me, and I'm going to get bombed with negative comments when I say things like this. But I'm an American citizen, okay? I am not a citizen of Israel. I do not want to see a genocide perpetrated on the Jewish people. I know the reason these people act this way is because they're terrified. They're living out their Holocaust nightmare by perpetrating it on other people. I understand the psychology of it. And if you're mad at me again for saying it, I'm sorry. You know, some of these things are not easily talked about. They're just not. But I'm an American citizen. I was born Jewish. I love America. I love my freedom here. I love this republic. It's my home. It's my country. It's the second largest Jewish population in the world behind Israel. I think there's 5.7 million Jews living in America and about 7.5 million living in Israel. And we are Americans. And if you're a Jewish American and you're supporting Israel, it's your right to do so. It's also your right to give money to AIPAC. It's AIPAC's right to buy political influence in Washington. All these things are part of our system, and our system needs to change. Let's play number 9. Here's a great change. We got a worldwide military empire. We're spending $2 trillion a year on our military. It's everywhere. And what does President Trump do? He knows if he cuts off the money to the military, he ain't going to make it. He knows it. People, and when I say this, people go, well, he's not afraid. No, he's not afraid, but he's not stupid. He doesn't want to get killed. He wants to live to pursue what he believes is his life's mission. So he's got this very eloquent idea called Trump's Golden Dome. Let's play number 9.
This is the threat America wants to stop. Missiles from adversaries like Russia and China hitting US soil. Donald Trump says he has the answer. A vast space-based missile shield he's calling Golden Dome.
We have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term.
In principle, it is similar to Israel's Iron Dome, which protects it from threats from neighbouring countries. It can track and neutralise missiles pretty much within a 70-kilometre radius. But the Golden Dome is a system on a much, much larger scale. Trump's fleet of space-based satellites will protect the USA from Alaska all the way to the southern border and the Gulf of Mexico. But is it even possible?
He talked about a near 100% effectiveness against air and missile threats. And the vision calls for not just the means to defend against intercontinental ballistic missile attack, but hypersonic cruise missiles, uncrewed air systems, air-breathing threats such as cruise missiles, as well as conventional air attack. All those areas can be achieved. The United States can, with its ground-based interceptors, provide a limited defense against lower-end intercontinental ballistic missile threats. NASAMS, for example, and Patriot are used every day in Ukraine to defend against multiple air-breathing and short-range ballistic missile threats, and even the Russian Zircon hypersonic missile has been intercepted by Patriot, reportedly. Bringing it all together, though, and having a comprehensive air and missile defense shield over the United States in particular one that can defend against large-scale ICBM attacks, really is pushing the bounds of technology too far.
The cost of the programme is also an issue. Trump says he will spend $175 billion and hopes it will be operational by the end of his term in January 2029. But the Congressional Budget Office estimated that the Golden Dome could cost as much as $831 billion over 2 decades.
Those are exceedingly optimistic cost and timeline estimates, and most likely not feasible. The next generation interceptor, the replacement for the current ground-based interceptor, which is the highest end of the current US missile defense architecture and provides a mid-course defense against ICBM threats. The next generation interceptor's projected cost is approaching $500 million per interceptor.
Back in 1983, I challenged America's scientific community to develop an alternative to our total reliance on the threat of nuclear retaliation, an alternative based on protecting innocent people rather than avenging them.
It's not the first time the USA has expressed plans for a space-based missile defense system, with Ronald Reagan proposing his Star Wars program in the 1980s.
That's
Donald
good,
Trump
Tanner.
says the
Trip down memory lane. Well, it all comes down to money. You got to pay for it. And as I said just a few minutes ago, the Court of International Trade, a lower court, has ruled that Trump's reciprocal tariffs imposed under the, what is it again?
Oh no, I took it
The
away.
IEEPA.
Yep.
What does it stand for? The International Emergency Economic Powers Act? Is that
Yes.
I got it.
You got it.
Great. Haven't lost it. I got it. Fantastic. Yeah, they've been enjoined. They've been injuncted. So in 10 days from now, the 10% that's being collected, that's going to stop. That was part of the calculation in what Trump calls the big, beautiful bill. That was on the revenue side. There's tax cuts and spending cuts in this bill. And I'm trying to sort this bill out and all of the hyperbole around this bill. It does cut taxes. Actually, it doesn't cut taxes. It actually continues the tax cuts that are currently in place. And when I was researching why the bill is alleged to run up the debt, it's because when they scored the bill, they assumed, I'm talking about the people that score these bills in the government, that the tax cuts had expired and there was a new higher tax rate. So they said, okay, we're collected at a higher tax rate. Now we're lowering taxes. This is a bit of sophistry. What I'm trying to say is to sort out what's going on with this bill, because there's so much propaganda and spin around it, I'm going to have to work on it all weekend. And then I'm still not going to be able to figure out what's going on because it's so complicated and it's changing so fast. For example, just this week, there was an amendment put into the bill on the House side, and guess what it says? No state or political subdivision may enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this act. So no regulation of AI at the state level.
And then that's for 10 years.
10 years. And 10 years from now, what's AI going to be?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute. I mean, these bills, they're changing every minute. I mean, there's an amendment. The thing's not buttoned up. It's hard to analyze. But I'm going to just read some notes of what's in the bill, okay? Largest tax cut in American history, estimated to mean an extra $5,000 in Americans' pockets with a double-digit % decrease to their tax bills. Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 will pay around 15% less in taxes. This is precisely the opposite of what the Democrats are claiming. Okay. Number two, This bill has no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. We don't talk about overtime here at Free People, but I bet we're going to start. It delivers deportation. The bill permanently secures our borders. It's the largest border security investment in American history, funding at least 1 million annual deportations of illegal immigrants. It finishes the border wall, 900 miles of river barriers, 629 miles of secondary barriers, and 141 miles of vehicle and pedestrian barriers. It boosts Border Patrol and ICE agents, hires 10,000 new ICE personnel, 5,000 new customs officers, and 3,000 new Border Patrol agents, and gives $10,000 bonuses to each in the next 4 years to get them on the front lines. It protects Medicaid for Americans by kicking, listen to this is some spin, depending on what street corner you're on. It protects Medicaid for American citizens by ending Medicaid expenditures in the blue states for 1.4 million illegal aliens who are now receiving Medicaid benefits. I don't know what your generation thinks. I know what I think. American citizens deserve benefits. We're fighting about them. Why don't we just send money to Botswana? Oh, we do. I forgot. And we're broke. You know, if we had the cash, it'd be okay. I would be interested in it. $37 trillion in debt? Who are we kidding? We're broke. It requires able-bodied and healthy Americans to work if they receive benefits. It is estimated that 4.8 million able-bodied adults are choosing not to work. Well, maybe there's no jobs for them. Maybe President Trump's trying to bring these jobs back so these 4.8 million people could get a job. But the court just said no tariffs. Great. You know, we don't live in a dictatorship. Things are not very coordinated yet. When you're trying to change a system called the post-World War II Democrat liberal order that's been entrenched for 80 years, it's not going to be an easy lift. It reverses the spending curse plaguing Washington. The legislation delivers the largest deficit reduction, not like Tom Emmer's pitch in 23. No, this is actually $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings when the bill passes. Okay.
What bill is this?
This is the big, beautiful bill.
Okay.
This is Trump's signature piece of legislation. It doesn't fund the government. People think it's the funding bill. It is not. It's a tax cut and a spending cut to the mandatory side of our budget. We have a discretionary expenditure and a mandatory expenditure. Because this is a reconciliation bill in the Senate, the only cuts can be to the mandatory side of our budget. And it's cutting $1.6 trillion over the life of the bill, 10 years. Although I like this one, for my age, provides historic tax relief to Social Security recipients, slashing taxes on seniors' Social Security benefits. I like that because I might have to live on my Social Security, and if they tax it, there's less of it. It will give Americans permanent tax relief. If the bill doesn't pass, it's the largest tax increase in American history. The bill modernizes air traffic control. There's been a lot of warp and woof about what's going on with our airports. That's going to fix that. Here's one I particularly like. It brings to an end the Green New Deal. The legislation repeals or phases out every green corporate welfare subsidy in the Democrats' passed Inflation Reduction Act and immediately stops the credits. So, for example, here in Minnesota, if you're Minnesotan, Xcel Energy was run by Ben Folk, Republican Party stalwart, from 2011 to 2021. He made $155 million during those 10 years, and he decarbonized Xcel Energy in association with our state legislature. And Julia Coleman recently posted that every Republican senator in the Minnesota House, in the Minnesota legislature, supports quote-unquote clean energy. So he had the full support of the Republican caucus, the Democrat caucus, and he decarbonized and paid himself a $155 million commission while he was doing it. And it was also predicated on $10 billion of tax credits coming from this so-called Inflation Reduction Act. Guess what? Those credits aren't coming. Your energy bill's about to go up. Darn.
Yeah.
Hey.
The summer's starting and AC is about to hit my electricity
Oh,
bill.
you're going to be paying, baby. He's going to ask me for a raise that I got to pay. It rewards Made in America. It's pro-family. It increases the child tax credit. And it just goes on and on. So there's a lot of good stuff in this bill. And I think there's a lot of questionable things in the bill. As I said, the aforementioned protection of the development of artificial intelligence for 10 years with no state regulation. So, having said all this and talking about AI, I want to talk about AI, but why I can't really tell you what's going on with this bill is Washington is filled with people like number 10.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
She knows so long as she was 9.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed. Biden is stately, and he comes with gravitas. There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake.
Ageism is an issue. Americans have a rich history of holding people's physical characteristics against them. Okay, you can ask African Americans.
He's older. That doesn't mean that he is unfit, and there's a lot of ageism there.
Now, this age attack, this obsession by the right.
Joe Biden may not be able to speak for himself the way that he used to.
They want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, and that's him lying around.
I think people should be speaking up for Joe Biden.
Americans and reporters in the media are just judging him by a physical appearance, and it's horribly unfair. Age is an asset.
He showed exactly how with it he is.
The flip side of this coin is that he has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience.
Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower?
No.
More wild speculation from a bunch of people who have probably never been in a room with Joe Biden and certainly don't have medical degrees that I'm aware of.
You don't get paid for performance to be president. The job is not a job of endurance. I don't see Donald Trump out bike riding like Joe Biden.
It's the Hillary's email. All they have is that he's old.
He can clear a dementia bar, and that's probably a win.
The media are not fair, and they're getting less and less fair, and things are frightening. You have Wall Street Journal running a horribly sourced piece saying that Biden is unfit.
Dubious Wall Street Journal report about the president's acuity.
Shoddy story by the Wall Street Journal questioning Biden's mental fitness.
Wall Street Journal story had a lot of flaws, as you said. But Sinclair, they didn't do any original reporting. They didn't follow up. They didn't do any work.
The hero of the day is Hirsch Goldberg Poland, and still, he is not here with us, but he's still being held by Hamas.
But a huge part of the Mueller report talks about Russian disinformation tactics. And one of the themes this election cycle is that Joe Biden is too old to lead. And so everyone is seizing upon this. And it is a classic disinformation tactic. And I think the best thing that we can do is to prepare the American people for this false narrative.
Liars. All liars. And those were Democrat liars. I'm not going to limit it to the Democrat Party. The Republican Party has got its sleeves rolled up and is lying just as often and just as boldly. I go back and I played it twice. We played it when you were out of town. The Tom Emmer piece, the greatest cuts to spending in American history. And I said during one of those podcasts, which is just a couple years ago, I said the national debt was $32 trillion. And I was appalled. and Emmer said it was the greatest cuts. We went from 32 to 37. Thank you, Tom Emmer. You are a liar. That's what you are, and you don't like it when I say it. Your son Tripp doesn't like it. The Republican Party of Minnesota doesn't like it, and I don't care, because until you people start telling the truth, you're putting my life at risk. Stop it. Tell the truth. We can handle it. We're adults. Don't treat me like I'm stupid, and don't treat me like I'm a child. Treat me like a fellow American citizen. Tell us the truth. You know, you passed this green energy thing here in Minnesota, Julia Coleman. How are you going to make it work now? The money's not coming. Are you going to tax the Minnesota citizens to keep up the green transition here? What you going to do? Please tell us. It's important. I really don't want to look at pictures of you and your kids. I want to hear about policy. I want to hear about how we're going to get out of this mess. We want to. We, the people, want to have a peaceful and prosperous society to live in, to raise our children and to grow old in. I was saying to Mrs. Professor Penn this morning, I was telling her about what was going on in Gaza. She didn't believe me. I played it for her. I said, this could happen to us here. She said, it's never going to happen here. I said, really? That's what they thought in Germany in 1941. Never going to happen here. That's what they thought in London in 1939. Never going to happen here. People, and I don't want to get mad. I mean, it's around my own campfire, but it's ridiculous. We have a false sense of safety and a normalcy bias that's going to get us all killed. The first step is to tell the truth. I'm showing the truth. Now, Tanner had a good comment. Maybe all these clips are fabricated. Maybe the whole thing's a simulation. I know I'm losing it now because I'm so angry about this. The lying. I can't do anything about the Democrats lying. I'm a Republican. I want the Republicans to stop lying. How can I tell what's going on with this bill when everybody's lying? Everybody's lying in politics. How do we get orientated? How do we pick a direction? How do we form a community when lies divide us? Let us at least be divided over the truth. Let's play number 16.
My name is Congressman Tom Emmer, and I represent Minnesota's 6th Congressional District in Congress. I also serve as the co-chair of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus, and I sit on the House Financial Services Committee, in which I work on a range of policy issues aimed at increasing financial inclusion and awareness through the revolutionary development.
Okay, so now Tom Emmer is going to talk to us about cryptocurrency. Great. I'm supposed to believe what he says. Great. This man just lied at a cosmic level. So I want to believe him. He's a congressman. Looks like a reasonable guy. He's got on the blue suit. He's got the lapel pin. He's got the starched shirt. He's got the red tie. He's got a family. Looks like a stand-up guy. Does he look like a stand-up guy to you?
He looks like a Minnesotan.
Right. But we saw him lie, and we played that clip 2 times while you were gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people were shocked. You should have seen the comments. People thought it was about the big, beautiful bill because people aren't tracking on this. This is Tom Emmer, who lied about the debt ceiling increase in 2023, is now going to tell me about cryptocurrency. Please continue.
In financial technology. As an emerging industry, blockchain has the potential to transform a host of industries by increasing trust, transparency, and security while delivering efficiency and cost savings to consumers. However, for the blockchain space to be more inclusive and always on the cutting edge, we must remove hurdles that keep new innovators out of this incredible industry. As is often the case in so many sectors of our economy, regulatory uncertainty remains a significant barrier to entry for many blockchain innovators. Burdensome and inconsistent regulation remains a major issue that disproportionately impacts small businesses and startups that have limited capital to manage growing compliance costs. Innovators should not have to hire a team of lawyers to decipher their industry's regulations, and they shouldn't pay the price for an unclear regulatory framework created by their government. Legislators and regulators need to improve their understanding of this technology and provide clear and concise guidance in order to keep the industry open to every innovator, whether they're from a large company or a small business that's just starting out. This Congress, our work with the Blockchain Caucus and on the Financial Services Committee will be focused on providing a more straightforward regulatory environment. This is so we can foster more innovation in this amazing space. One such effort is the reintroduction of our Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. This proposed legislation affirms that blockchain developers and service providers who never take custody of consumer funds, like miners and multi-signature service providers, do not have to register as money transmitters in each and every state. While this guidance is practiced by FinCEN, having legislation like the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act is now more important than ever, as the Financial Action Task Force, an international standard-setting body, is considering rules which would make it difficult for non-custodial entities to innovate. Another item we're working on is the Securities Clarity Act, which provides straightforward regulations for digital assets by clarifying that a digital token is separate from the securities offering that it was a part of. This will allow companies to distribute their tokens without fear of retroactive enforcement actions, while the rules of the road regarding tokens continue to be developed. Lastly, and something I know all of you as entrepreneurs are acutely aware of, a continued lack of guidance from the Internal Revenue Service has left many in the blockchain industry struggling to operate, opting to move overseas in some cases to work in more defined tax environments.
That's enough, Tanner. You get the picture. Representative Emmer is touting himself as an expert on blockchain and digital currency. He's well known as being the crypto king of the Congress. According to Grok on X, Representative Emmer has received somewhere between $143,000 and $208,000 in campaign contribution from cryptocurrency and blockchain-related entities since 2018. I don't know if he's really into it or if he's just into the cash. I don't know. Representative Emmer, I invite you on here to talk to me about it. School me up, please. Please, because I will guarantee you a respectful dialogue, and I really do want to know, and I really do want to believe in you. But this money that you're getting and the lies that you told and the technologizing of our environment, the insertion in the House Big Beautiful Bill, which prevents states from regulating AI. The future is here right now. It's right now. The Genius Act, great name, isn't it? Moved through a procedural vote this past week and has just passed its latest hurdle, allowing Senate Republican leaders to bring the legislation to the floor. What is the Genius Act? It is part of this legitimization of crypto and stable coins. We're moving into a brave new world so fast and so furiously. And look who's running the show. I don't want to say these people don't know what they're doing. They certainly know how to get paid.
I don't believe he knows what he's doing, because the whole video he's staring off to the right. He's reading from a teleprompter. Most times you could say like, oh, it's just organization. But for me, you lose all type of authenticity if you can't repeat your message from your memory. If you have to sit and read a teleprompter, you don't believe what you're saying.
Well, let's just take a look at what's going on, because this is right now. Please play number 15. So, as you can see, while we're going about our daily lives, we're in the middle of a digital revolution. The blockchain stablecoin idea, the cryptocurrency idea, don't like it. I like old-fashioned cash. I don't want things to be this organized. You know, in the disorganization and the clutter of the old ways is a lot of freedom. In the convenience, in the lightning speed of the digital, we're walking ourselves right into a prison. And I'm going to read you something here that's kind of old. It's old. Some of you might know it. Now, the whole world had one language and one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, "Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down, and let us go down and then confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. If you don't believe in God, which is the majority of people, and when you get into these scientific groups, they fence the healing of our genetic diseases and our infirmities and extending the limits of our intelligence through this technology. They don't believe in God, so they believe that the carbon-based life forms that we are flawed. They seek to replace what we are with something better, something that they called evolution, or Darwin called survival of the fittest. And we, the people, are choosing through our representatives across a wide range of technologies to let this scientific elite class that President Eisenhower warned us about in 1961 to supplant humanity. We are replacing ourselves. These devices, these creations are going to think millions of times faster. They'll be vastly stronger. They won't be subject to the same kind of infirmities that we are as human beings. And the hubris of the people who are behind this revolution knows no boundaries. I mean, that's why we don't have a boundary of the United States of America anymore. There's no boundaries. Let me just play something for you. And if you can capture the arrogance of this, then I hope you can be motivated to get involved in politics. Number 13, please.
When I started using computers, there are only about a dozen computers in all of New York City. Now we all carry multiple computers in our pockets and our belts. But computation is a lot more pervasive than these gadgets we carry around. Take this rock, for example. Doesn't look like it's doing very much, but it has trillions of atoms and molecules in here. They're all moving around, bouncing against each other at incredibly high speeds. That's computation. That's not very useful today. It's organized kind of randomly. We can't communicate with it very well, but we're going to change that. We're going to reorganize the vast amount of computation in this rock to make it useful. And it won't just be raw computation. We'll infuse it with exquisitely intelligent software, vastly greater than our intelligence today, and with all the knowledge of the human-machine civilization. This rock is going to be a trillion times more powerful than all biological human brains today. This is going to be quite a valuable rock. We call matter and energy reorganized in this way computronium. We're going to reach these limits late in this century. And at that time, we're going to turn many of the rocks and other stuff suitable for computation into computronium. And so, to keep the expansion of our intelligence going, we will then need to spread out to the rest of the universe, turning some portion of it into computronium. How fast can we do this? That depends on whether or not we can transcend or otherwise get around the speed of light as a limit. There are suggestions that there may be subtle ways of doing this. One possibility is to send intelligent nanobots through wormholes, which are basically shortcuts to apparently faraway places through other spatial dimensions beyond the three we're familiar with. Wormholes through space appear to be consistent with our understanding of physics. If it is indeed feasible to either find or build such wormholes, our intelligence will be so great that we'll be capable of engineering these shortcuts to reach other parts of the universe in brief periods of time. In that case, we could infuse the universe with our intelligence rather quickly. It would require only another century, that is by the end of the 22nd century, to saturate the universe with computronium. On the other hand, if we can't get around the speed of light, it'll take a lot longer. But in either case, expanding our intelligence throughout the universe is our ultimate destiny. Cosmologists today argue about whether the universe will die in fire or ice. Fire means a big hot crunch, basically the opposite of the Big Bang. Ice means stars flying apart, eventually dying out. Both of these views of cosmology assume that intelligence has nothing to do with it, that intelligence is just a bit of entertaining froth that dances in and out of the dumb celestial forces that rule the universe. But this perspective ignores the law of accelerating returns. As a result of the exponential expansion of our knowledge and skill, the universe will ultimately be infused with computronium and with the vast intelligence of our human-machine civilization. So the universe will wake up, and we will intelligently decide its fate.
Famous Ray Kurzweil, all these things we talk about, the wars, the budgets, they're all diversions. While we're focused on all these issues, matters of survival, this elite scientific technical class that comes out of our elite academic institutions, godless, faithless, rejecting of their own humanity, are creating a world which makes me obsolete and irrelevant, at least in their mind. For the believer, the outcome is obvious. There's nothing new under the sun. I'm tremendously saddened by this. And of course, his pitch was, if we get this going, the world will never come to an end. I mean, it's such BS. These people are insane. And I don't believe that the American citizens are going to get motivated at a level that's going to allow us to prevent this fate. I think it's too late. But I'm going to try because when I die, at least I know I will have tried. And I'll try for my children, and I'm going to try for myself, for my family. I like what Tanner does, goes out to the woods. You know, this is kind of a rejection of that in its own kind of way. And I don't hate myself like this. And I don't hate humanity, and I don't hate the world that we live in like this. So I'm just saying, got to start just the basic. Look how, if you're watching me and you're an elected official, look how serious this is. The first step is stop lying. If we can't get that one done, we can't go to the next step, which is to build a community of people that are interested in living together. Right now, let's just stop lying. Please be honest with the American people. Be honest with the Minnesota citizens or whatever state you're in. Demand that the elected officials tell the truth. And when you catch them lying, Do not be shy. Call them out, because when we call them out, we will encourage preferred behavioral outcomes in the future. Not a very happy podcast. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, guys.
I want you to all have a great weekend. I'll come in on next Tuesday ready to talk about this tariff issue. I'm sure there'll be a lot of developments over the weekend. I want to thank you for watching. I always forget this. Please put this up on the screen in the future. If you're watching on Royce White's X, please repost the link. If you're watching on YouTube, please repost the link. We need your help. We're forming a political community. We want it to be an action community. We need millions of people. I'm asking for your help. Thank you very much. God bless you. Be well. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Have a good night, everybody.